Hello, I'm Toycat, and welcome back to our special Store Saturday, because Mind Duet, the creators of the Real CW texture pack, recently reached out to me and said we'd like to sponsor a Store Saturday slot. I don't take most marketplace creators' offers in this way because they'll say like, hey, make sure you tell people to buy our product, or make sure you say it's good. You know, there's an insistence that it's a positive review, but this series is meant to be all about my honest, actual opinions, and Mind Duet said, hey, yeah, it doesn't matter what you say about the pack, we want to hear your honest feedback, and that is a good show of faith in their own product. That is something that convinces me this is something worth checking out. So let's check out the Real CW texture pack, which, just to, you know, prove that I can say whatever I want, I think that's a bad name for a texture pack. They definitely wouldn't let me say that if they were auditing this one, but I think it doesn't tell you exactly what's going to be inside the pack. It doesn't describe it very well, so let's check it out for ourselves in this video, and let's find out precisely that. A quick reminder, by the way, one of the things about buying texture packs in Minecraft Bedrock is you can actually select the quality of them in these settings. I recommend setting this to max, obviously, if you have a device that can handle that. But yeah, you can turn that down if you want to, and some devices can't fully support 128 times, so just keep that in mind. This is going to look mildly different depending on what device you run it on. Also, they have said they do intend to update this to 256 by 256 in the near future. It will be a free update. So yeah, I really like the kind of consumer-friendly nature of the company themselves, but obviously this is about the product. I mean, bad companies can make good products, good companies can make bad products, and let's find out what is going on with this Real CW texture pack, because my immediate noticing thing right here is that most textures look just about the same. I mean, it still looks like regular Minecraft, right? But everything looks way higher detail, with the most noticeable things being the things in my hotbar. I mean, look at this trident, for instance. Actually, this is a bad example. Look at this pickaxe, for instance. Look at this lantern. I mean, actually, this lantern looks ridiculous. I'm not sure what's going on with this, but if you look at most of the items, you can see how they're much more detailed than previously would have been, and the same with that witch over there. Fun fact, by the way, the witch uses a variation of its Java texture rather than its Bedrock one, so there's a little bit of insight into the origins of this texture pack, but you can see the intense detail when you look inside this witch hut. You can see the crafting table, you can see that cat, you can see the witch, and you can see there's a lot going on here. So let's give it a feel in the natural world first of all. Because personally, I find most Super HD texture packs to be a little bit jarring, but this one does a really good job of looking perfectly like vanilla Minecraft. Once you're more than about 20 blocks away from something, it looks exactly the same as when you're playing vanilla, with a very few notable exceptions. I mean, the lily pads are different, the vines are different, but if you look at like wood, if you look at grass, if you look at anything else, it looks mostly the same, and it's easy to tell what something is. Something so many texture packs make a mistake on is they customize things so much that you don't know precisely where you're playing. Maybe it's an issue only for me, and if you have people that aren't really big on texture packs, but it is really jarring to go into a biome and to not know what the blocks are. But here it's very friendly, very familiar. When you're looking at a birch forest, it's clear you're looking at a birch forest. When you get really close to the birch forest, you can see it in a lot more detail in a way that really adds some beauty to the game. I mean, like, look at these leaves, for instance. Look at this grass, for instance. You can see just how much more detail there is on any individual block. In fact, there's 128 by 128, which means roughly 256 times more pixels on any given block than in the default texture pack. This is really, really insane, like even when you're looking at like just a tree or something, but there are much more noticeable. But there are other notable places, and the one that immediately caught my eye when I load this one up is look at the rabbit stew. My God, is that a detailed bowl of rabbit stew? Look at the detail going on right here. This is several times more than the the default one, and again, like in terms of like how much you actually notice it, because again, even though there's more pixels, noticing pixels and seeing different pixels are entirely different things. But in this case, yeah, so many things have a lot more detail in ways that can make them more realistic, you can say, but for the most part keep them roughly the same. Again, this tropical fish, it's just going for a realistic version of what Minecraft already does. This wood is going for a realistic version of what Minecraft already does. But what's important to see, I feel like, is some other... But I think it's important to see a lot of Minecraft elements interacting with each other. So here are a lot of mobs. Some of them are fighting each other, some of the mobs are just existing, and there's a lot of blocks in between. It's a messy scenario with a lot going on, and that's where you get to see, does the detail help you or does it hinder you? In my case, just looking at a villager by himself, I mean, again, there's something weird about seeing a villager in such a HD texture. Like these eyes, like there's something a bit much about it, right? But if we ignore the villager faces, like again, if you look at them from behind, which is always my strategy for this sort of thing, you can see how everything crafting actually is quite improved. The sandstone for the houses is way nicer. The wheat looks incredible by comparison. Even the iron golem, like you might have just seen, and the cats even, they're looking significantly better than their default form in a way that doesn't hinder the game, and to me seems like it can only improve it. Look at the iron golem's like extra texture they can add, and the extra kind of detail they're adding to it. It's beautiful. Look at the pillager. Oh, I mean, he's dead now. But look at what the pillager used to be. I would argue these super detailed faces do a good job because they are horrifying in the right way. Like, this is a mean guy. I mean, it makes sense that he's super ugly and that's what he raids villagers, but it makes their weapons look more deadly and match the actual damage off it. And I really like the way these mobs have been updated. I feel like the villagers are definitely just horrifying beyond all belief. Again, I am gonna say that regardless of anything else. Like, this is just, I do not like looking at this face, and I'm gonna stop doing it as soon as I can. But as far as, like, if you look at everything else in the village, you can see how, like, oh yeah, it's just a dude with a really detailed banner that is actually the right amount of horrifying. It's a Minecraft mob, sure. When we look at the crafting table, it's a lot of detail, but it does actually add to the fact that, like, yeah, it's a real crafting table with a saw and a hammer, not just like 3 pixels of something that vaguely resembles that, right? So yeah, I would say overall, the kind of natural feel of the world is definitely much, much, much improved. But yeah, it feels like they've done it in such a way that the natural world is more interesting in many places, but it's all on top of the Minecraft world, which is very much the same. I mean, sure, if you look at the grass, you'll see it's very much actually different. I mean, ignoring the texture rotations and stuff like that, which is a Bedrock exclusive, you can see how, like, oh yeah, the grass, it is technically a very different texture, but to the eye, it just gives off that same kind of thing until you find an element within the world, i.e. you find a villager, a pillager, you find the iron golem, you find the houses. When you find a sheep, you're going to see how the sheep is very different once you get close to them. I mean, look at these faces. You know, again, these faces, not my favorite thing in the world. Villager faces and now sheep faces, definitely going bottom of the list. But you can see how, like, oh yeah, the faces are different, and that's kind of weird and jarring because everything else looks the same. But every single element is roughly the same, except for the bits which are on top of the world. The world itself is the same, but the things on top of it are not. And I really like that. But this texture pack review is not just looking at the natural world, which we could do forever. Again, I would enjoy looking around the natural world. Instead, we should get a feel for how this texture pack looks if you apply it to a Minecraft world that already exists. One that you have built on top of, one that isn't entirely natural. So here is my update adventures let's play world. I've been building on this for, you know, like obviously 7 to 8 years. I think the 8-year anniversary is coming up in just under a month now. But I've been building on this world for quite some time, as you obviously are aware, and a lot of people are going to have worlds like this of their own, and this is the important thing about a texture pack, to me at least, is to be able to transfer it into an existing world without getting very confused about things. And I'll admit, that thing on the left is very terrifying. It's a totem of undying, but it does make sense immediately. Same with these, you know, steak. Like, it takes a minute, but then you're there eventually, right? Anyway though, long-term fans of the channel will know that I think the best way to review a texture pack is not to just look at one element, but to look at a lot of them combined, and that's why we're going to be checking out the existing built-up part of my Let's Play, a few builds I've already made across a few different updates, but we'll also be checking out the Nether, we'll also be checking out the underground aspect, and a few things to link those together to see precisely how this texture pack performs in a bunch of different environments. I mean, sure, it's one thing to have a texture pack that looks great when you're looking at the pieces of beef, but how will it handle when you're in the Nether? How will it handle when you're doing the actual things you need to do in your survival world? That is the question, and let's find out the answer. Also, just as a little aside, again, just my first big criticism about this one, as far as the survival experience goes, is the pickaxe compared to the axe and compared to the sword. They're not very notably different. This looks a lot like a hoe to me, based on the inventory. They've got tiny tips to the top of these things, and maybe that's just aesthetics or whatever. But like, why? You know, the axe you can maybe argue is better than the Minecraft axe, but like, is a pickaxe meant to be this thin? It looks like it would break on first impact. Same with this sword, honestly. It's like a super, super thin thing. Maybe it looks better in third person than in first person. Maybe it looks more realistic there. But in first person, when you're looking at your hotbar, I just can't tell for sure that these things aren't hoes, even though I know intuitively these are my diamond pickaxes. So yeah, looking around the rest of this, you can see how my house looks pretty good. Very intuitive to see, of course. I love the look of these chests, but I much prefer the ender chest. This is an insane redesign, right? Look at the beauty they've got going on with this. Obviously, inside a chest, it looks roughly the same. And yeah, you can see how they've done a really good job at the key things you're going to have inside your Minecraft base. Even the brewing stands look absolutely, you know, beautiful. And that is a good sign, if nothing else. But let's look at the builds themselves. I mean, I have a fair few builds. First of all, we've got the cows, which again, they look like cows from a distance. When you get close to them, I'm sure they have weird cow faces. Am I right about that one? I'm right about that one. You know, like, just because you know, we were too busy thinking about whether we can. We didn't think about whether we should. That definitely applies to animal faces. They do not need to be this complex. But yeah, so I would definitely say, though, it's nice that from a distance, the cows look the same. From close up, they look better than the same. But then if you ignore their faces, where things are a little bit horrifying. But as far as actual builds go, when something uses blocks, those blocks are all beautifully textured. Look at this stone slab, for instance. This stone slab is real nice. I like it. Same with this, you know, oak plank. Like, you know, the fact that you can see all the little details on the individual slabs is real nice in my opinion. And then if we, you know, go look at something like the big, you know, like minecart station, you can see how the bricks for this. There's a lot of detail going on there. I would argue it doesn't add as much as the wood texture does. I mean, again, when you get close to this, you really feel like it's a piece of wood you can touch on your screen, which is, you know, something, you know, that's great in my opinion. But, yeah, so I'd say the stone stuff is more kind of like marbly. Like, I really like stone slabs and stone itself. But when you look at stone bricks by comparison, it's like, I don't think this adds to it. I'd almost argue the extra detail removes in some ways. Because one of the things that I feel like every HD texture pack's doing on some level is trying to over detail, and this texture pack's doing a slightly better job of not over detailing everywhere, like this wall, you know, probably a good example of that. But I feel like it still has some areas where it's not necessarily perfect, like with the stone bricks, and to some extent with the wall. Although, at least one thing we can praise here is the wall colors are the same. So if you've made, say, a couple of iron swords in front of your big, you know, like black armory room, then it will still look exactly the same. Something you can't say about a lot of texture packs, sadly. Big tragedy in my opinion. So yeah, we're gonna now look at the concrete and see how that one goes. And it looks as though concrete's got the same thing. The color replication is good. You know, not only does it look good, I would argue it's stronger than regular Minecraft in some ways. Like, this is really nice, the concrete here. It actually looks like concrete as opposed to just a solid texture, which is going to be a problem if you're making green screens in Minecraft, but I think that's probably just me. Otherwise, this is really nice. I like this a lot. This is over-texturing doing a good job. Again, it's like a 50-50 on what you think is good and bad. Like, you know, is this stone better than default or worse than default? I'd say better. Maybe some people say worse. But yeah, overall, I really like my existing builds in the overworld. I do have a few more to show you, but before we dive into that, let's take the Nether way over there, because we could walk, you know, directly, but I prefer to take a Nether way across my world, and yeah, so that means we're gonna hop into the Nether portal. Nether portals always get me excited in these texture packs, so let's see what's going on here. Oh, so it's very much again, it's gone for the vanilla feel, something I love. Same with the obsidian, actually. It's not quite obsidian vanilla. It's not quite vanilla obsidian, but the fact that it's actually obsidian is real nice. Although it looks like they tried to line up the texture pack and they've gone off by a few pixels here and there. Like you can, or maybe that's like not intentional. Maybe it's like texture rotations. But you can see how it almost lines up every now and then. Maybe intentionally, maybe not. Like look at, I don't know what's going on here, but it's really, it's a nice obsidian. It's a nice Nether portal texture. But let's see what the Nether itself is like. Is it good, or is it an atrocious mess, as we've seen so many texture packs become? And the answer, oh my god, that is a beautiful Netherrack texture. Again, this is, oh jeez, look at the detail on this. I feel like a common flaw for texture packs to fall into is to try and beautify Netherrack. But I feel like when you make Netherrack a beautiful building block, you miss the point that it's meant to be this ugly thing that's everywhere. It's meant to be the baseline on which everything else is on. And I feel like although, you know, like that's not fully gone wrong here, like it's definitely a good standard block, you can see the issue when you're looking at a wall like that, like, oh, it's a lot more imposing on you. Like there's a lot more detail when you're looking at Netherrack. It's not just the solid color that you usually see. So that's something I have to say. But as far as these flame textures go, these things are beautiful. Holy Jesus, that is a lot. See, this is where 128 by 128 pixels can make something significantly better. It looks like it's actually on fire. Don't you want to see something burn in there? I want to see something burn. Oh yeah, isn't that beautiful? But yeah, so you can see how the Nether is you know, filled with some beautiful textures. This lava is another example of like, oh, look at the flowing beauty there. But I will say overall, also, by the way, have you noticed how the fire stops burning when you stop looking at it? It's a very jarring thing. Like, look at that fire. It's not burning till I get close enough to it, which I actually don't like. I feel like if you're going to have like a super animated nice texture, maybe this is a Minecraft bug and not the texture pack, but this is definitely a little jarring. So keep that in mind if you have a lot of fire in your Nether, and as someone who lights up their world that way, I do have a lot of fire in my Nether. But you can see how like Nether brick does a really good job at like, again, not, because it's, you know, it's got the right amount of detail. It's not trying to be too fancy, given that it is a very heavily used block, but it looks better than default in a really nice way, in my opinion. I'm liking this Nether a lot, actually. I'm liking this Nether a lot. Let's eat some cooked beef. That's definitely what steak is called in the UK. And let's hop out there, I guess, to the overworld on the other side. Because as far as the Nether goes, I guess my simplest explanation of this is like, yeah, it's beautiful. It's real good. The weirdest thing though is that like if you look at the glowstone against the textures, it's not so great. If you look at the Nether quartz, it's slightly weird to see. Like maybe it's deliberate, maybe it's not. But like you can see the texture's slightly different to the Netherrack around it. But as far as everything else about this texture pack goes, I would say that like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. Oh, actually, wait, Nether mobs. Are we gonna be horrified by the faces? Because I love this zombie pigman from the back, but from the front, probably the right amount of horrifying. I mean, this is perhaps the worst or the best, depending on your perspective, if you love these ultra-realistic mob faces. But yeah, I'm not sure why Nether Quartz has decided to go with this kind of like dirty block appeal to it. It makes it more clear, which is actually probably a better thing playing Minecraft, but I'd argue it's not the perfect vanilla experience, so big point for finding Nether Quartz, which is something I do to get my experience, in case you're curious. That's why I've got mending on my fortune pickaxe. But if you're not into that, oh, it's real weird mining in the Nether, actually. So the Nether is beautiful, but it might have some gameplay issues if you have an existing Nether that you've heavily customized or have from a few updates ago. So do keep that in mind as you go forward. However, I am trying, right now, to take you to the other side of my world, because that is where I have a few more builds, and also where we usually go underground, to show is the underground actually usable. It's kind of weird because since we last did a texture pack review, the use of the underground in Minecraft has gone slightly away, so we'll put less emphasis on that, and more emphasis on the farms and stuff, because yeah, the Nether looks great. If you have things in your Nether that are from the overworld, they'll look great as well, but how great do your natural farms look? So I'd say bamboo, pretty good block, right? But it doesn't, it's not too noticeable on the giant farm scale. Like same with sugarcane, I would guess. Like will look mostly the same until up close. Oh, and there's a pillager here. You know, I didn't need to go. Oh, the fire from the fire aspect goes on the pillager. That is amazing. Oh, I love the fire texture when it's in this way. How did these also that is a weird animation to see like that. But yeah, what I would say about this, actually sugarcane does not look anything like default when you're up too close to it. But I'd say it looks better in a lot of ways. So, yeah, what do I think about this for natural builds that we have already? Or natural builds, I should say, like pre-existing builds. I would say it does a really, really good job. There's a few blocks that go slightly further from the mean than normal, and there's a few blocks that go closer to the mean. I mean, like, if you look at dirt and bamboo, they're pretty much close to normal. If you look at melons, sugarcane, and say, you know, concrete, they're further away than normal. But overall, things look pretty good here. So that brings us into the final segment. Let's walk into our house. Let's look at one of these sheep right in the eye. And let's go underground. And let's see what that's all about, shall we? Because as you all know, underground, I mean, it's less important these days. But like, going underground and being able to mine is an important part of the texture pack. Because that is most of the Minecraft world. I mean, you only spend a certain amount of time doing it nowadays, sure. But let's see what's down here. And let's see how easy it's to spot. There's redstone over there, I see immediately. Can see from a distance, which is great. It doesn't look too textured from here, right? I can see, like, I can tell there's more detail, but it just looks like red blobs, which is what I want from a texture pack, funnily enough. Like, yeah, it's beautiful up close. Oh man, I love this redstone up close. But the fact, look, do you see that, by the way? These ones lit up. That's nice. I like that, kind of adding to the Minecraft world with that. But yeah, it does make it impossible to see at a distance. It keeps the redstone feel while still being much better. That is the challenge, and it seems they've done it well for redstone. What about other, you know, ores and blocks though? Like if we look around here, can we see anything else? I mean, I can see lava, I can see obsidian, but can we see iron ore, for instance, very easily? Actually, let's just go mining and let's just find out like what it feels like to mine, because it is a very weird experience, but it is one that's like super satisfying, right? Like it's the same Minecraft mining. We all know how it goes. But yet, when you see it happening at this speed, it's nice, right? It's placed down a torch. The torch being on fire on the top is probably a bit much. Like, again, it's a nice fire animation, but it feels weird to put it there. I mean, maybe that's because the top of the torch is always meant to be fire, but it's a bit weird. But you can see how, like, oh yeah, iron ore, it's immediately visible. From a distance, it looks a bit more like some weird brown ore, so when you're up close, it's easy. When you're far away, not so perfect. But I do like that they've improved the iron ore in some way. But I will say, actually, iron ore, definitely one of the weaker points as far as mining in this texture pack. Mining is beautiful if you're, like, again, caving, I feel like I could do this. I could see this animation just all day. Like, see the stone be uncovered. Like, it just looks nice, right? There's something great about this. But as far as finding ores go, I can only vouch for redstone being beautiful. And I can vouch for, like, you can tell the difference between gravel and stone easily enough, but not perfectly easy, I would say. So there's another, like, mild note against this. But, yeah, this is the Real CW 128 by 128 texture pack. There are many things to say about this, and unlike a lot of marketplace companies who are super worried, like, oh no. Unlike a lot of companies out there who are super worried about their stuff, like, oh no, someone might say something negative about it one day, and that would be the worst. Instead, I love the fact that, you know, this, company, Real CW, Mind Duet to be precise, they were so sure that this is a good texture pack. They made it over the course of 4 years. They were so sure about it that they wanted to put it out there and said, hey, yeah, we want to hear your honest thoughts. If I had something negative to say, they could improve their product as a result. And to me, that is one of the best selling points. I'm not obliged to say anything about this pack other than say, hey, it exists, it's on the store. But I actually do say at the end of this review right here that, yeah, actually, this is a solid vanilla HD texture pack. There aren't many HD texture packs on the store that go for a good vanilla vibe and succeed. And this is definitely your option as far as that goes. I would say my favorite option in the store that does that so far. This is the closest I've gotten to a texture pack that makes me actually consider, like, hey, why don't I check this out for more long-term use? Because although I'm not the sort of person who's ever going to use a texture pack 100% of the time, this one makes mining really, really satisfying in a way I can't describe. If it weren't for the pickaxes, which again, there's just something about them that, like, they yell ho to me when it's in the inventory. Like, again, the difference between these 4 tools right here is not necessarily so easy to tell for me on the fly, which is what it needs to be for me to be comfortable playing anything perfectly. I would say this is a texture pack I love for so many different reasons, not least of all the pillagers. I mean, I'm excited to do my pillager raid after this video is done. Not least of all the fact that, like, certain foods and stuff look super fascinating. I think at the very least, I'm going to try check out, like, a stream in this texture pack maybe, because I want to see the, people's reaction to seeing this for a much longer amount of time, because what I've seen so far, maybe it's just perfectly built my Let's Play world, or maybe this is one of the best, texture packs out there, which is why if you want a HD texture pack, I recommend this one, because unlike many other texture packs, which are there to make some money and leave, this one is being regularly updated. We'll have, updates when the next Never update comes out, I imagine, and we'll also be updating to 256 by 256. I love that commitment from a texture pack maker. They just want to make a good product, and they want people to see it, and I love that as, that's something I want to promote. That is something I'm going to say right now. I'm not obliged to say this, but I really do recommend you at least check this map out in the store. I mean, you don't have to buy it necessarily, but at least go look at it in the store. Give it a peek at least, because this is worthy of being on your radar, if nothing else. And yeah, I love it. Maybe you will too, maybe you won't, but I hope you will enjoyed this video regardless. You can like it if so. If you want to see more of these sorts of videos, you can subscribe with notifications turned on, and you'll see those daily on your homepage. Thank you to Mind Duet for sponsoring this video. Again, fully disclosed, this is something I always do. I'm not the sort of person who does sponsor videos and doesn't tell people. 1, because I think it's immoral and I believe in honesty, and 2, because it's illegal. So, yeah, thank you very much to them for sponsoring this video. Thank you to all of you for watching, and just know, if we ever do any sponsorships again, it will be under the same conditions that I will say precisely what I want. And I think, Mind Duet for showing that, like, yeah, actually, that's a better system. Rather than me saying the things they perfectly wanted, which I wouldn't have done anyway, it's better for me to give you my own genuine opinion. Because if I just give you the read of, like, it's the best texture pack, it's got more pixels and everything else like that, sure, that's going to sound good and that's what the marketing people might want you to say. But I think in this age of, disinformation and stuff, it's much easier to just put your real, actual opinions out there and let people do with it what they want, because the good stuff will rise to the top and the bad stuff will hopefully float to the bottom. That's not how floating works. But you know what is how floating works? This creeper right here. Thank you very much for watching, because I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.